I'm Will Hanson and welcome to the Experts in the Room podcast, brought to you by Extreme Push. In this series, we chat to some of the leading minds working in the customer experience, retention and data space in some of the most competitive and fastest growing industries in the world. In this episode, diving into brand marketing, I spoke with Peter Ryde, Head of Marketing for the National Oceanography Centre, NOC. Peter is a branding expert and has taken one of the UK's premier scientific communities on a significant rebranding exercise. We chat about the challenges and opportunities facing the NOC brand, how they are activating their community and their data, and of course we touch on their great campaign from a few years ago, Bodie McBoatface. I hope you enjoy this one. Welcome to Experts in the Room podcast. We have a true expert today and from a field that many would not expect for our podcast. I'm joined by Peter Ryde, Head of Marketing at the National Oceanography Centre, so NOC, in the UK. Peter, really welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have a chat to you about all the marketing that you guys are doing.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, excellent. And I guess for a lot of our listeners, obviously being Extreme Push and some of the brands that we talk to a lot of D2C brands that are working across a variety of spaces. People will know NOC, maybe without even knowing that they know NOC, I suspect, but maybe give us a brief introduction into what you guys are doing as an organisation and maybe your role within the organisation as head of marketing.
Yeah, sure. So NOC is so we're in ocean science, oceanography, basically. We're based so we have two offices, one in Southampton, one in Liverpool. We have roughly around about 500 scientists, so oceanographers, the modelers, from coast to deep ocean. We have two world-class research ships out conducting science throughout the world, and essentially we're a global kind of collaborator of science. So my role is head of marketing. I've been here for about 2 years. I've come from a kind of commercial background, so working in the energy industry, so really focused on decarbonising the grid. But what we have here at NOC is a really unique institution, and I'm fortunate to work with a really professional team of marketeers. So we have a graphic designer, a videographer, we've got a digital officer who's really focused on social media, and we're all kind of pushing the boundaries of marketing for this science institution, really. So I'm having great fun as well also doing it. Yeah,
and we love the claim that we bring lots of experts in, but you're obviously working with 500 scientists, so I think that's true expertise within it. Talk to us a little bit about the commercial aspect of NOC. So you guys are a charity, right? Mm-hmm. How do you go about making sure that you're funding 500 scientists, 2 vessels? Like, I'm sure it's big business in many ways.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, we are a charity. It's our 3rd year as a charity. We were previously a government institution, funding the normal ways. But obviously we'd have to bid for funding. Each research project has its own, commercial team that's designed to secure that funding. So essentially, traditionally funded through all sorts of channels, through UK government, international collaboration, UN. So a real mixed bag. But what we're trying to do is push into other markets and tap into other revenue streams. So I mentioned becoming a charity. So obviously fundraising and donations, seeking that route. But also there's an innovation arm to our organisation. So we call it NOC Innovations. And that is working more from a commercial point of view. So we're looking at sensors, we're looking at autonomy, training, consultancy, but essentially that revenue feeds back into the charity so it can fund us to do more and more science.
Yeah, excellent. It's a very different business model to the types of models that we've talked to on the show before, and I think that's super interesting. Your role within the marketing space then, I'm sure, is to get the message out about the good work that you guys are doing and the programs that you're running. You guys have been through a big rebranding process in the last few years. Can you talk to me about how that's like fundamental to helping you grow that, obviously the brand recognition, but to get that good news out about what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think probably, when I first came to NOC, it was, it had the look and feel of a traditional government institution. We suffered from, I guess, brand erosion. So every department had its own brand, and there was, classic brand erosion there. But because we are on this path of independence, this rebrand was a real strategic move, which was designed to evolve Knock's brand and to really kind of tell a more compelling and differentiating story. One that has much more clarity and purpose and a more of kind of distinctive look. So obviously our objective was to enthuse and engage and enroll our prospective audience, and we felt that that's what we needed to do. I can talk to you a little bit more about the purpose, the kind of the route that we took, and it was more around, I guess, defining our purpose, and putting that at the center of our brand. I think a few people have maybe quoted that without buying or culture, the brand is hollow from the inside, and that's pretty much what we wanted to do. So define our brand. And then from there, that will signpost and dictate how we talk and how we behave and how we look. And all of those three elements are very core and central to how we have rolled out the brand and built that strategy into brand strategy into Knock, really.
And how does that overall kind of purpose drive the way that you talk to your constituents or customers is probably not the best word for it, but to the people that want to hear about Knock? Like, maybe I'm sure that you want some of them to be customers, but how do you use that purpose to kind of define the audiences that you want to talk to? Like, how are you data driven on that? How are you kind of looking at segmenting that? Yeah,
so we have a good idea of our audiences, and obviously talking to them is talking to them differently in a language that they understand is going to be key in how we engage. So we had, we were very conscious that we needed to do that, and that is how the brand talks, how we write our press releases, how you look at the website, and the website is our next big challenge. Really, is kind of pivoting that to be able to talk to the audiences that we want to speak to. So public engagement is a key audience that we need to speak to. I think it's well documented that the attention span is all of our attention spans are reducing somewhat. So we have to be able to provide them with eye catching and engaging content within the first few seconds, and that's the real challenge for us is to try and dilute this very technical, very complex science and distill it down to a core message. And one of the ways we've done that is we understand that there are probably three groups of people, besides being categorizing them into their segments of public and government and industry. These three groups will want to either engage with us, learn a little bit more, or have a real desire to go deep. So we've categorized them into paddlers, swimmers, and divers. Paddlers are the guys who they just want to kind of dip their toe in and have a brief understanding of what we're doing. Then hopefully we can start to kind of bring through a much a good quantity of those that want to learn a little bit more. But then the divers, they're the real academics. And I think by putting them into those kind of categories, we can also develop content as well. So if we want to really appeal to the mass audience, the general public, then we know that it needs to be very visual. It needs to be quite fast moving, and obviously, we need to get the message across very quickly. So that's how we've started to kind of pivot to speak to our audiences.
Yeah, I think that's really key, and brands that get a really good handle on that and kind of are led by that tend to find success, I think. I know you guys play around in lots of different channels. I want to start with the divers. Not that I'm a diver when it comes to like understanding the ocean and everything, other than swimming in it and trying to dodge sharks in Australia. But you guys have got like such a plethora of experts at your fingertips as a marketing team. Scientists that are world's best in their field. I know you've got your podcast Into the Blue. Like, do you have good buy-in from the business or from the wider org now to be able to showcase that expertise? I think for some brands like yours, sometimes it can get hidden and people forget, these scientists, they can be hard to, I imagine, get out of their shells, to use another marine terminology, but yeah.
Yeah. I think once you're on that, that road of mentioning marine puns, then you can't stop, really. I mean, I'm using go deep all the time. You're right. I think that the scientists, we've got some of the biggest brains in the world working for us, and we provide that bridge for them to be able to communicate to the general public, and they are fantastic at communicating and getting across their science. But we support them by providing media training. Today we're training another 10 scientists and engineers to be able to engage and develop content and tell stories better. And essentially, that's what we are. What we're here. And I think the process that we've been on has been to get across that the team that we have are experts, and we won't interfere with your science if you don't interfere with how we do our marketing and communication.
Yeah.
So essentially, we now have that kind of understanding, and their buying is great. And as I say, they are experts. And once we get over the initial kind of, I guess, speaking to the media, once we get over that initial kind of introductory boundary, and they're in their safe zone, then then they're great.
Yeah, I think in this age, particularly in an age of probably disinformation, it's probably what I'd call it, or too much information. The more experts that get out in front of people, probably the better for everyone.
Exactly.
So I love to get into the specifics of things as well. You guys have done some wonderful campaigns, and we'll touch on them in a minute. But as a marketing team within your function, what are real areas of growth for you as far as channels that you're seeing that you're getting some good engagement on? Is it social? Do you use traditional media? Are you looking at digital channels like email, for instance? What are the things that you're doubling down on maybe over the last year, and what you're looking at into the future as far as your team's focus?
Yeah. Okay. Well, one thing that we're not short of here is really good stories, really good content, and the ability to be able to kind of develop that. So, with 500 scientists, we have obviously a good flow of news stories. So it's been important for us to really, I guess, our overarching agenda is to raise ocean up the climate change agenda. So to people to recognise the fact that the significant role that ocean plays in that, and commonly it's not known. So that's our overarching agenda. We wanted to get it into the mass media, so tier one media, traditional media. We have been working with a PR agency to being able to do that. And over the past 18 months or so, we've been building some really valuable relationships with, the likes of the BBC and Sky, and all the broadsheets as well. So we can communicate at that level. But we're looking at newer digital channels as well. So, you mentioned our podcast. We film our podcast. We launch 2 podcasts a month, and we try to vary that. We've been looking at influencers as well. So we've been getting guests onto our podcast. They can talk about paddleboarding and how they're interacting with the ocean. But essentially, like this one, they're conversations. So they are relaxed, and when we're talking to scientists, we generally have a host who isn't a scientist, but they can start to kind of bring out some real, some real gems. Mentioned YouTube. YouTube is ever important to us. People want to watch their content, specifically the audience that we are pivoting to, so younger audience. We're increasingly using more and more animations as well to help us communicate that science. Recently launched on TikTok with some great response. Actually, one of the films which we've recently launched was a short film around a spider crab, and that is close to 2 million views already. So that's really flying. But things that we're looking in the future is to really explore gamification and how we can start to kind of drip feed that information to our paddlers, and engage again with a younger audience, but make it fun. Asking some questions and really kind of get that engagement. So I think for the future, gamification and influencers, but obviously using more and more of this digital to provide us with some great analytics and great insight, and enable us to kind of talk more effectively to our audience.
And do you think have there been barriers to cross that bridge into digitalization, given the nature of the organisation, or is that really has that changed significantly and it's untapped now? You've got full control over that.
Yeah, I think I think the branding exercise was a bit of a they're always a bit of a bumpy road, and you have to kind of play a political game as well, and to involve as many stakeholders as you can, key stakeholders, and gain their views and listen to their views. And we got to the point where it was a very collaborative approach to the development of the brand, but on that process as well, it also highlighted areas that or gaps in our communications armory. We needed to do more videos. We needed to do more social media. So I think there was always an underlying desire to do more. They just needed the expertise in the organisation so they could do it effectively. And I think over the course of that 18 months or so, we've built up the confidence so that scientists trust us with their research. Because essentially it's their own personal brand as well that what they're putting on the line. But we're in a good place now.
And then taking your commercial hat from your previous roles, how do you see kind of servicing your communities and your audiences to help your commercial arms, whether it be through fundraising, whether it be through generating revenue through partnerships, whatever that might be, or even direct sales for some sides of your business? Like, do you see a key role for marketing within that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, marketing is marketing. I think bottom line is the bottom line, isn't it? Really. And what we're doing here is helping to build communities and helping to build communities of people that actually care about what we do, so they can feel invested and they will feel as if they want to take action. So whether that's through dipping into their own pockets and donating, or working with larger organisations to kind of bring through innovation, that's what we do. We're there to kind of communicate what we do here.
Great, yeah, and you can see the success of that, and obviously, I don't want to say pitfalls, but where we talked earlier about you'll know knock without knowing knock. The great campaign from the organisation a few years ago around Boaty McBoatface. We can't have a podcast without mentioning that. No. Huge example of maybe, I don't want to say putting too much trust in the public, but how a campaign can become viral off the back of just the public running with it. Like, I think it's one of the best ones I've seen for ages.
I know, yeah.
Do you want to talk to that story a little bit?
I can. And obviously it wasn't with Knock at the time, but I think it was about 7 years ago, the NERC, the Research Council of the UK, ran the competition to name the new research vessel. Big ice going research vessel, hundreds of millions of pounds. And they were suggesting possible names for it. I think Shackleton was one. But they decided to go to the general public and put your trust in the great general public, and you really are kind of putting their life in their hands. And I think a DJ came up with the idea of Boaty McBoatface as a suggestion. Everyone liked it. Everyone got behind it. All the sensible names just kind of like fell right down the ranking. But obviously, this is a serious business. This is a serious research ship undertaking some cutting edge science. So we can't call it Boaty McBoatface. So they decided to, quite rightly, call it the Sir David Attenborough. David Attenborough's an absolute legend, and one of those guys that inspired me to be where I am today. I watched it as a kid. So, quite rightly, the Sir David Attenborough is the name of the research ship, but that left Boaty McBoatface with a fair bit of brand equity. So it was gifted to Knock. So we decided to name our autonomous vehicles, our submarine, after Boaty McBoatface. The submarine is we've got 6 of them, which is not a known fact, but we have 6 of them, and it's become a celebrity in its own right. And everywhere, wherever Sir David Attenborough, the research ship, is mentioned, hand in hand, Boaty goes along. So Boaty does work with the David Attenborough. It's designed to go down to some thousands of meters of depth to undertake science. It's measuring salinity and ocean temperatures and undertaking some really important science. But it goes. You can go deep and go further and go under ice. So it works hand in hand with Sir David Attenborough. But certainly Nock has benefited from Boaty McBoatface, and it's got its own entourage. It's got its own kind of PR team at the moment. So
amazing.
Yeah. It gets us that cut through.
I just think it's an amazing example of how campaigns can take on a life of their own, particularly in the digital age, and we see it from so many brands. Like the quaint term of going viral, but it is very much to the benefit. It doesn't have to be D2C brands that are making money. It can be these great organisations that have stories to tell as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's one that not only the public engage with, but celebrities as well. So we've had Boris Johnson, for instance, he wanted a selfie with Boaty. He recently had Jon Snow. Yeah, it's a great, fantastic tool for getting that cut through.
Yeah, and back to the serious business of marketing. We'll go more down the Shackleton route or the Attenborough route than Boaty. You guys, like, it's important to call out the mission that you're on. I think too, around what you're doing within the organisation, like chasing net zero. Being front and center for promoting climate and promoting the ocean's role within that. That's a pretty serious brief for a marketing team. How do you keep focus and make sure that you're, one, having fun with it, and then 2, making sure that you're keeping towards that brief and driving like real certainty, and you're driving those kind of data points that you want to get across? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think our overarching goal is to raise ocean up the climate change agenda. We're here to help people to understand that the ocean isn't there to be exploited. It's actually it's one of the most important. It is probably the most important element in our ecology. It's drawing down more carbon than the Amazon. It's close to 50% of carbon is drawn down into the ocean. It affects our weather, our risks of sea level rises, for instance. So raising up the climate change agenda is essential for us. And we made our first step last year when we attended COP. And we had some success in actually getting onto the agenda and written into some of the policy, which is a great start. But I think probably more of a success for us was to bring together the international oceanography community to be in one place and to push that ocean agenda. I mean, there was branding was absolutely second fiddle. It was all about the ocean, and then we were there to kind of push the agenda and raise awareness. So that's our number one goal. Obviously, some of the science that we're doing can be pretty negative. There's some negative outcomes. What we're finding is that rising temperatures is obviously raising sea levels, but we need to be able to kind of communicate a positive angle. It's not all doom and gloom. There is some hope, but we need to act. And that's one of our key challenges. We have to put that positive message into it. But at least we understand what's going on. But now science can provide solutions or adaptation solutions so that we can behavior change or make changes that or make adaptations that will enable us to kind of understand the hazards that come from the ocean. So that's our real agenda.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered that perspective of negative messaging when you're trying to drive a positive outcome. So that's a really interesting piece on how to work around that.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, considering that we do a lot of school engagement as well, and the anxiety now, which we're also seeing coming through climate change anxiety. We need to be able to obviously inspire the next generation of ocean scientists and marine engineers, but also to help inspire kind of behavioural change as well, and to kind of push the point that everyone can have an impact.
Yeah, great, and that's probably a really nice segue, Peter, into looking into 2023, looking into the future for Knock, what you guys have got planned. Like, are there any specifics that you can either your big reveal on our podcast, but are there things that you're specifically looking at? Like, are there campaigns that are coming up to keep an eye out for? Are there things that you're excited for as a marketing team? Maybe a little bit of a glimpse into the future for you guys.
Yeah, sure. So I think I mentioned a new website. So we've recently gone live with our Knock Innovations website. The next big hurdle is our charity website, and that's going to be more of a learning zone for the general public. So we're going to have lots of pillar pages, so more interesting subjects, and from there we're going to hang lots of content, so we can be perceived as the expert on these areas. Yeah. So it's going to be a much more engaging tool, much more of a kind of a general public schools focus. And again, we will be communicating to our paddlers and our swimmers and divers, but all in the one website. That's going to be quite a challenge, but that's the decision we've made.
I imagine that presents some opportunities too around getting data around the people that are looking at your website, people that are opting in for messaging, people that are subscribing. You can start to collect that first and zero party data around your audiences to be able to talk to them more personalized.
Absolutely, yeah. And that again, some of the insights that we're getting for the analytics through the podcast, for instance. We assumed that the podcast would appeal to older people, people a bit more going out for walks, that type of thing, but it doesn't. It's 40% of our audience is aged between 18 and 30, which is a real eye opener for us. But obviously, we're able to change and give the audience what they want.
Yeah. I think that's so key, and it's great that you're looking into that to do it, and it's going to affect your commercial arm too, being able to talk to people, being able to talk to them in a personalised way to up your donations, whether it's through philanthropy or through personal, through people giving a little, but any of it helps, I imagine. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So other things that we're looking at is as I mentioned earlier as well, gamification. So doing more around online gaming. That's exciting stuff for us. But also we've taken our first steps into working with influencers. So initially micro influencers, but what I challenge the team to do is to be bold and to really start to kind of push the boundaries. It sounds a little bit cliche, but if you give them the confidence to go out and to be continuously innovative, then we're not scared to fail, but it's an exciting journey, and it makes the team very, I guess, passionate about what they do. They want to come into work. Recently spoke to our one of our team members, doing the annual PDR, and he said, "Look, hands up! I get excited about coming in on a Sunday evening. I want to get in and get back into work and do things."
Refreshing, I think, for most people to hear that, compared to maybe not, I don't want to say the average job, but obviously that helps when it's got purpose, and I think that feeds back into any brand when they talk about purpose and what drives them to do it. You don't necessarily have to love your work, but if you're working with good purpose, then that's going to help you maintain that. So particularly from a marketing function perspective.
Absolutely, and to kind of round it off, it points back to the brand, doesn't it? People believe in that purpose and fully buy into it, and you're pushing in the right direction, in the same direction.
Yeah, I think it's great. Peter, that's been an excellent view into Knock. Do you have any closing thoughts that you want to leave with people about how to engage with you guys, or just to get involved on the new websites and stuff as they launch? Keep an eye on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think social media is our we're prevalent on social media, so find us on LinkedIn or YouTube or even TikTok. And we hope to kind of bring you along on that journey and continue to provide you with engaging content. So provide you all the information that you need to kind of love the ocean better.
Excellent. Thanks for your time, Peter. It's been excellent talking to you on Experts in the Room today, and I am excited to see what comes for NOC as you guys progress into 2023.
Great. Thanks for having me.